Many of our kids are just wrapping up their first week of school. Are you back in the routine yet? It takes some time. Your kids are probably coming off that rush of new friends and new teachers. And that leads us to tonight's first topic. Do you know that only 2% of public school teachers in the United States are men of color? When you narrow it down to Mecklenburg County, the number's slightly better. 5% of them are black men. Now consider that number as we break down student demographics. According to CMS, most of its students are black, 38%. 28% are white, and then Hispanic makes up about 24% of the student population. So for many, their teachers just don't look like their students, and that can really be an issue. And there's some reasons why that is. Research tells us we learn better when the teacher is someone we can relate to. Only 49% of boys of color graduate from CMS. In fact, there are only 2 states in the country with a high school graduation rate of 80% for boys of color. This map right here behind me is by the Schott Foundation for Public Education. It shows the graduation rates for black males in the United States. And the only states at 80% or above are Maine and Idaho. Compare that to North Carolina. We come in at about 61%. South Carolina, turns out, is one of the worst, down at 51%. Last year, a study by the Isa Institute of Labor Economics found that when black students have black teachers, they're more likely to be academically successful. It found exposing them to at least one black teacher between grades 3 and 5, get this, reduced a black boy's probability of dropping out of school by 39%. On top of that, they were more likely to have more self-esteem and go on to pursue a college degree. Well, why is that? Why is it so important for a student to have someone who looks like them? We asked Jermaine King, an English lecturer at Johnson C. Smith University.
It helps level the playing field mentally for students to see a reflection of themselves in their instructor is another example of they're capable of doing whatever it is that needs to be done. For example, hey, I see myself in my professor. My professor once sat where I sat. I'm capable of doing.
Is there even a bigger issue here? Not only people of color teaching, but males people of color teaching. That's probably even a smaller percentage, isn't it?
It's a smaller, minuscule amount of professionals out there. I have this story where I was lecturing here a few years ago, and as I was walking around the classroom, I made eye contact with one of my students, who was a young lady, and she had this weird look on her face. And I asked her, "Is everything okay?" And she said to me, "Oh, I'm sorry. You're my first black male teacher." And I'm like, "In college?" And she said, "In my life."
How did that hit you?
It didn't dawn on me the impact until a few years later. Because again, you have a young lady who went through her entire academic life up into college, and she was a sophomore at the time, up into college before she had a black male teacher. So impactful. It's about representation. And again, when you believe that you can do something, you have to see it, because many people are visual learners. It would have a dramatic impact on graduation rates, and I think people will be more excited about going to school because they're like, hey, that dude's face looks like my face. Unfortunately, there aren't a lot of us in education, and the ones that are tend to move on eventually, or they burn out quickly.
So Jermaine mentioned it there. There is a major turnover rate problem for black men in education. Male educators of color are 5 times more likely to leave the profession than other groups. Why is that? According to the book Black Male Teachers by Chance Lewis and Ivory Tolson, there are 4 main reasons: lack of leadership, lack of professional development, career opportunities, and barriers to navigate the profession. So what's being done? This comes at a really interesting time because today also happens to be the final day of Black Philanthropy Month. It's been recognized annually since 2011 to celebrate black nonprofits. One of them is called Profound Gentlemen. It was founded by Jason Terrell and Mario Jovan Shaw. Its goal is to keep and recruit black male teachers and to keep black boys in school and send them off to colleges and successful careers. We spent some time with Jason this week. Here was our conversation. Tell me a little about yourself and how you got into education.
I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia. For the most part, I never thought about being a teacher. I always thought about law as a path for me. So I went to college at a school called Furman University. in Greenville, South Carolina, and majored in political science. It was actually around my senior year I started volunteering for a mentor program at my university. We would take middle school boys to our campus every Friday to do like homework help.
Yeah.
And just really immerse them in the school culture. And I spent more time doing that than I did studying. And I actually had a professor who told me, he didn't see me as a lawyer, he saw me as a teacher. And I never thought about education before, so I applied for a program called Teach for America.
Yeah.
I literally applied the last deadline for the program, trying to figure out what I wanted to do after college. And it ended up being placed at a middle school here in North Charlotte. Found my passion and my calling, working and serving kids.
So that led to this, where we are today. Explain where we are.
Yeah, so we're sitting in a Profound Gentleman's office.
Yeah.
So I started the nonprofit with my co-founder, Mario, in 2014. So Mario was a former teacher here in CMS at a school called Ransom Middle School. Mario and I had a lot of conversations around teacher diversity, what it meant to be a male teacher in a school, and we started to add other friends to the group.
So who's that person that talked to you in college? You got this a mentor who came to say, you got to think about education. Don't you have to do that as well, try to get into the colleges and universities to get people to take this track?
So we have a membership model. Right now here in North Carolina, we have about 100, maybe 90 members who are in our program. And actually a cluster of those guys are college students. So we do go to colleges, UNC Charlotte and Johnson C. Smith, to speak to students about education. We call them rap sessions, kind of give them an inside scope of what it means to be a teacher in a school.
How are you trying to bring more into the classroom?
But our goal is retention. Our goal is to support schools and school districts and not only helping place teachers in schools, but while they're there, give them the support they need to be successful.
What kind of response are you getting from CMS with the programs?
We have partnerships with a few schools across the district where we actually do more intensive support with teachers. We're always invited to speak to the new hires when they come into CMS day one. We have a table and we go speak to them. So we want to eventually have more of a strategic long-term partnership with CMS. But we have good reception so far. The
stunning statistic is that only 49%, right, of people of color boys are graduating at CMS. Mm-hmm. When you heard that number, what did you think?
Yeah, it's that was something that unfortunately wasn't that alarming. I mean, one of the biggest predictors of student graduation and student success is actually your teacher. Mm-hmm. So we believe that teachers are the gatekeepers to a lot of advanced opportunities for students.
That's just not a traditional role for males in general, quite honestly, not just men of color, but also just males in general. Do you have to kind of overcome that and explain why this is so important?
Before you can really understand and tap into your students, you first have to understand and tap into yourself.
Like, what do you see as the long-term goal here? What do you really want to see?
So our goal is to actually figure out how we can support them more of a strategic way through their HR, through their onboarding process, working more closely with schools and school districts and support at least up to 250 men.
What can folks do in the community to help out what you're trying to do?
They can become a friend, and we actually place friends with teachers to actually do community projects in schools, classroom setups and breakdowns, just basically being an advocate for our teacher.
Pretty impressive what they're doing. You can read more about Profound Gentlemen and how to get involved on WBTV.com/tonight. We put more information in the links we mentioned section.